All right, we'll try it again. I changed some settings in OBS to record in HDR. And so that caused some issues where, you know, apparently, because I use Restream to go to Twitter and to YouTube, apparently that was causing some issues. Like that just like does not compute. It's just sitting black. And in fact, every NVIDIA encoder, it was just sitting black. So I'll have to go back and tweak those settings again to record more HDR game footage. So the whole point was really to record HDR game footage for some other things I had in mind to do with the channel. So I'm sorry for that. That probably just nuked the stream. Like probably no one's gonna watch now, which is fine if no one wants to watch. I haven't been able to stream for a couple weeks because I've been taking care of my family. Whole family's had the flu, which has been unpleasant. But that happens, you know, that happens. So anyway, let me see if I can actually see this on YouTube. It looks like it's here. No, it's showing me a stream from like a year ago. Check some other things here. See if I can find it. Alright, let's check our... Yep, it looks like it's not showing up on... Oh, there it is. No, it's showing up on YouTube. Yeah. So, I mean, like, I usually don't have to mess with settings too much. Obviously, I haven't had to mess with them in a really long time. But, you know, to record in HDR, like I realized like a lot of the Morrowind footage that I had was basically getting, you know, you're squishing the dynamic range so it looks over bright. It doesn't look right. It doesn't look nearly as good as it actually looks to play HDR Morrowind, for example, or HDR Skyrim. Those games look really good on an HDR monitor. Really good. The problem is trying to stream them. First of all, stream them in HDR is difficult, but also you also run into problems where you know, is it an HDR format that YouTube can support, for example? There's always like some issues trying to capture that, but I feel like it's worth it for at least some people. The people who have HDR monitors or like an HDR phone who can actually look at HDR content, it makes a big difference, right? Like to see Skyrim where like everything is black is really black, and it's not just like a blurry gray, and that you don't have the brights just blown out to produce the image. HDR makes a big difference when you're gaming, a bigger difference than I thought it would. But like I have a second monitor here. It's you know, it's an SDR monitor, and you can look at the same thing on both monitors, and it's like, wow, like compressing something into that SDR space, or like rendering it in SDR, like a game, everything looks so much more crushed in SDR in like a standard dynamic range. It's really pretty crazy. Like I'll just give you an example. You know, like I took a screenshot, and like the screenshot looks good. I'll show you the screenshot. Hold on. Right, here's like a Skyrim screenshot that I took the other night. And you look at it and you're like, this looks okay. Doesn't look bad, you know? Doesn't look special. But if you actually see this on an actual HDR monitor, you know, it's pretty cool, right? It looks a lot better than you realize. The darks, there's detail in the darks. That's the big thing. Is that when you get down into, especially a game that has like a lot of atmosphere, like Morrowind or Skyrim or Oblivion, I feel like those games kind of thrive on atmosphere, especially at night. So if you have a knight walking around at night, and you can still have those details in the darks, I think it makes a really big difference. I think it makes a really big difference for how good the game looks. Yeah, big difference. So I'm gonna shoot some test footage one of these nights. I shot some the other night, but the problem was I realized I'm running a mod that has nudity in it, and I'm like, what? I can't like put this on YouTube. So like you pull the armor off a bandit and their bandit's naked, right? And you're like, okay, well, I can't put this on YouTube. That's not gonna work. So I'm gonna have to go back and figure out what mod is doing that and tweak that. That's the other thing that I like really hate. It's like Skyrim is the ideal game because of the fact that you can mod it so much. That's what makes it ideal, right? It's an ideal game because you can do just ridiculous amounts of modding. It can be like any game that you want it to be. That's what Skyrim can be. That's very, very, very cool to me. However, it's really easy for somebody to get caught in the vortex of modding Skyrim to the point where you are modding Skyrim instead of playing Skyrim. If that makes any sense. You're modding the game instead of playing the game. And that might be cool for some people who like the enjoyment they get is putting together mods. But to me, the enjoyment is playing the game. So, you know, people are like, what mods do you use for Morrowind? I'm like, I don't even remember. I'll make a list. But the thing is like, just find a YouTuber that has a good looking game, right? It's like, here's my mod list for Skyrim, and just use that mod list. Just use their mod list because they have more time to think about this stuff than I do for sure. Like, so I would just start with like another YouTuber's mod list and just use that. That's the list. We'll just use that guy's mod list. Like my Morrowind mods are it's just all the mods from the Morrowind graphic overhaul from like almost 10 years ago at this point. They're old mods. They're not special super mods, but people see Morrowind on my computer and like, whoa, it looks really good. I'm like, yeah, it's the mods from 10 years ago or whatever. I think it's from like 2018, right? You know? So yeah, that's what I recommend. Just like grab a mod list and do that. A lot of people don't care about the nudity, but it's like I want to, and it doesn't bother me. Like it doesn't bother me as a person, but I have kids like walking around behind me and I have like glass behind me, you know, and I'm streaming on YouTube. So if I'm doing that, I really shouldn't have nudity mods. It's a bad idea. I'm not into, if you want to personally have them, that's totally your bag. You can do that. And I've ran into that with Morrowind. I was like streaming Morrowind and like, boom, there's a penis flopping around on like some bandit. I'm like, oh man, I didn't realize that I had installed the nude version of this mod because I downloaded the mod, you know, 10 years ago or whatever. So I had to go with the habit when I was streaming that of not pulling the clothes off of the bandits. I have to leave them clothed for the purposes of modesty for the stream. It's silly, but you know, that's kind of what we kind of what we had to do to like make that work. So anyway, that's that. Do I have another screenshot here? Yeah, this doesn't look nearly as good as what it would look like, you know, on the screen because it's very crushed. Like these darks would be really dark. I installed a mod that makes it like extra dark as well, which I wouldn't actually recommend it if you were if you weren't using an HDR monitor, because it would be so dark. Like, I mean, it would actually be appropriately dark. Skyrim is too bright on the default vanilla setting. You can see too much. You don't need to use like any light spells. This has been a complaint with Elder Scrolls for quite a while, is like the default brightness is just a little too bright. And a lot of people are just like, why would you use Night Eye? Just turn up your brightness. It's like, okay, well, turning up the brightness kind of looks bad though. It just doesn't look good during the day and stuff. It just doesn't look appropriate. So, and isn't the whole point of having night vision or like, you know, light spells that you use them, right? Isn't that part of the role-playing experience? I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. Right? My favorite Skyrim mods became Become a drug dealer, not because it's great, but because the hilarity of asking Jarls if they want to hit. Yeah. So that's why Skyrim really is like the ideal game, is because you don't need to come out with a new game. What you have is a platform for any game that you want to have. There's new content mods, there's giant expansions that fans make, right? It's like it's the equivalent of Roblox, right? Like if you want to put it in other terms, it'd be like Roblox. It's the fantasy RPG Roblox is Skyrim. People will do all kinds of things in Skyrim because the base game is good enough. In fact, the base game is really good, so it gives you a great tool set, a great place to start from for anything. If you don't, anything you don't like about Skyrim, you can change. You can change the gameplay. You can change the leveling system if you wanted to. You can change what creatures look like. You can change what creatures are there. You can add new creatures, new places, new continents, you know? All kinds of stuff in Skyrim. Yeah, Bethesda used a lot of fake lighting in their games. You got to remember that Skyrim came out in 2011, right? So the thing is, fans have gone back and just fixed the lighting, for instance. Well, why did they have that fake lighting? It's because they probably play tested it and they're like, we need to have lights that illuminate the environment. You notice that with like Quake as well, right? Is because you have to have things that make it look like an environment, that you can see things, that you can operate in the environment, rather than it being like hyper realistic. But people can make the hyper realistic mods. That's something they can do, and that's cool. I'm glad they can do that. I really am. So, yeah, people gone back and done a lot of fixes for the lighting, which I think is actually pretty cool. I think it's cool to do fixes for the lighting. But this is an example, right? Like what is lighting this? Like, where is this lighting coming from? This should be completely dark, shouldn't it? Just an example, right? It looks cool, but if you wanted to make this really realistic, it'd be like black, or you'd only, like, these guys would be holding like lamps or something, and those, you'd only see light like around them. So, but there's people who could do that. There's people who can do the crazy level of mods to make it really realistic. So in that way, Skyrim's really an ideal game, is that it's a good enough game to start with, and that inspires people to make mods and do, just do crazier stuff. Let's do a lot crazier stuff. All right. So I think we're going to do some writing today, which should be fine. Let's get this going here. All right. We are on chapter 24 here. Let's see what we're doing. Been a couple weeks since I've gotten to work on this because of all the illnesses and all the other stuff that was going on with my family. All right. Okay, first scene, they're going to meet Aethelready's father. I need a name for him. I don't think I have a name for him. Let's give him a name. Let's think of a letter we haven't used yet. We've used 2 A's, we've used a V, we've used a C, we've used a D. We've used an E. We've used a P. We haven't used an F. We haven't used an R, I think. So, we call him Roderick is a good name. Robert, obviously, is a good name. There's lots of different names we could use. Oh yeah, David Lynch. Yes, Jared. David Lynch died. The biggest fan of Bob's Big Boy. It's a big deal. That's all right. I mean, like, one of the last like good postmodern artists, I guess. What else to call him? All right. I like R, like Roderick. Roderick. Lord Roderick. All right. All right. Excuse me. The music stopped. I'll link the music. There's a new one. Let's find another one. I have. All right, we'll just do the. If you don't have the 2024 album, if you don't have Liminality, you can grab that as well. I'll link that. Yeah, just I had changed some settings in OBS to record HDR video, and that was not jiving well with Restream at all. It was not working. Light down a bit, it's bright. Where's the old remote? Here it is. There we go. That's better. And what's the chat saying? Let's take a geography of Army of Darkness. I never have. I don't think it matters where the castle is. I've never thought about the geography in that movie. I haven't seen it in a long time, though. Look, you can watch me perform all this music live. All right. Been playing any games lately? Unicorn Overlord. It's been a pretty good one. I'll probably finish it up this week. Setting up your little units and your, your gambits like in Final Fantasy 12 and optimizing equipment rather than clicking through menus and deciding, okay, you're going to cast this next and this, it's pretty interesting. It's good gameplay. When you write fantasy like this, is it good to go Tolkien's route and do a prologue of the state of the world before you start the story? Tolkien didn't always do that. He doesn't begin The Hobbit that way. In A Hole There Lived the Hobbit. He just starts with Bilbo. And he did that in Lord of the Rings. That's totally skippable. You don't have to read that. It's not necessary. Concerning hobbits, because people were always writing him letters about it. So it's almost like it's almost like a dialogue with the reader. So no, you don't need to do that. And in fact, I usually recommend against doing lots of prologues and lots of stuff like that. If you're going to do it, it should be something that really piques the interest, the way like maybe Sanderson would do it. But Sanderson doesn't really explain anything with those. He just, or Robert Jordan, they just show a scene of something and don't contextualize it. So you spend a bunch of time trying to figure out what the heck that was, which works. I mean, like it's an effective technique, but you don't have to do that either, right? It's if you want the reader to read, you really have to start with something that hooks them, not something that like they don't care about the world until it's populated with characters that they care about, you know? If you think about, if you want to hook someone with a prologue, or you want a prologue that's not going to put them off and make them close the book, it should be like a Star Wars crawl, you know? The evil imp, this is what's happening. Like half a page. And then you're onto the real shit, you know? You want to lead with action. You want to lead with conflict. And yeah, Tolkien actually led with action and conflict. So keep that in mind. Are you guys seeing a lot of errors on your screen? Like an image flashing? I can't quite tell. Yeah, I'm seeing like some weird images flashing on my screen. So if you're seeing weird things, it's not on my software, and Restream is just showing a still image. So I don't know what the actual stream is doing. But on YouTube, I'm seeing like a lot of weird errors. But I don't know if that's just on my end or, you know what I mean? If for some reason my keyframe frequency is 8 seconds, you know, I had it set to automatic, but whenever you do that for automatic, it will it'll sometimes do something random. It doesn't like long keyframes. Yeah, I can't tell if that's happening on the stream, like these random like flashes of something. So I don't know. But yeah, it's freezing up on Restream, but not on YouTube. But like my YouTube version, it looks like there's like sometimes there's like something flickering. Really weird. I don't know. I changed a bunch of settings to record HDR, and the HDR recording came out good, but now other things are happening that aren't so good. You know how to keep old 4x3 video games from getting stretched out to 16:9? You have to run them in a window, probably, is the simplest explanation. If you can run it in a window, then you can run it in a 4x3 window. Otherwise, I'm not really aware of, I know there probably is some means of like cropping the edges of your screen to make it 4x3 so that like your computer recognizes it as a 4x3 monitor, but I don't know how to do that off the top of my head. Do you read any of George R.R. Martin's Game of Thrones stuff? So I think the first book is good. I've read that one, but I would just stop after that one. You kind of get where he's going with that, and really the reason I didn't read more than that is that no one I really cared about. I just didn't care about anything, right? You get to the end of the book and there's really nothing anymore that you care about. For me, at least. I didn't care about anything else that was happening, so I didn't read more. It's well written for what it is. It's very long-winded, and once you understand what George R.R. Martin is doing, if you understand what his shtick is, it gets a little old, right? Because what he does is he works up to a point where there's like a tension point, and then he just switches to another character in a different part of the country, and then you have another thing. So he just does this thing where he's always switching characters so that you have to keep turning the page. It's like a soap opera. It's very well done from that perspective, and it's a good technique if you're trying to get people to continue turning the page. But if you're aware of it, then it becomes annoying. So it's not for everybody. You know what I mean? I don't watch a ton of horror movies. I don't usually watch vampire movies, though. Wes Craven stuff, I mean, I used to watch it back in the day. Watched all the old stuff, but a lot of horror now is about like grotesque violence and not not the older style. I wrote a little article on Substack that talks about some of this stuff called schizophrenic fiction. I'll link it real quick. I wrote that the other week. By the way, if you want to get the Eternal Dream Christmas, the 10 Eternal Dream books, you're running out of time. It'll be up for like 2 more days and then it's going to be gone. So I'm going to link that for you. Okay? So please do grab it. You can get the ebook for $10. It has 10 books for $10, or you get the paperback, which is also good. So, but yeah, a lot of modern stuff is just not. It's not very scary to me in a way, right? It's like there's nothing scary about something gross. I mean, there's a horror to it, but it doesn't create the unease or the fright that I think of like with classic horror. Occasionally I'll do a review on a horror book, either classic one. I talked about Salem's Lot just because it's like, I've read the book, right? So it's an easy way to kind of look at what they did with that. I should do like a classic review of something like Nightmare on Elm Street. I think that's a really good one to look at. Johnny Depp is in Nightmare on Elm Street. He's one of the characters. And generally, I think it's a very effective movie, even with the very dated sounding electronic score. It's very evocative of the time. It's very memorable. But I think when you go back and you listen to that score now, the synth score just doesn't really hold up all that well. It's okay. And we like it because it's kind of classic and it's different, but compared to like more modern sound design kind of scores, it's not quite as good. But it's certainly like a classic for a lot of good reasons, I think. Back in the most modern fiction hurt by the lack of real world experience of the authors. I think it's really hard to not have real world experience. I don't know what people mean by that. You know, do they mean like fighting a war? Because that is an experience. You know, but if you just mean jobs, like the only people I know who don't have jobs are like the Nepo babies of Hollywood, and that might be what you mean. But I don't see that like from books, right? Like most of the authors who write books have some experience in life. They've done some different stuff. But even then, like, how much experience is going to prepare you to write medieval fantasy? Right? We weren't alive in the medieval period. Like, reading history books is probably better than, like, having experiences. But you should have life experiences. I don't know how people avoid life experiences. Maybe that's, like, a Gen Z thing. Yeah, I'm not sure what we mean by, like, lack of real-world experience. What does that mean? Like, what is a real world experience that's important to have that'll make you a better writer? Most people are just working jobs all the time. So I don't know. I think the main problem with modern fiction isn't lack of experience. It's lack of experience writing. It's not lack of life experience. It's just that they haven't written enough stuff and they haven't read enough good things to know what good writing is. It's a technical exercise. You know what I mean? I don't think it's, in my opinion, I don't think it's that people haven't lived enough, because I've read stuff from people who've lived crazy lives and they can't write for shit. It's just, it doesn't mean that you're a good writer. I think it's just, there's a lot of experiences to have in school and college, though. I certainly had some crazy ones. You know, it's good to get out and mix it up with different people. They might be in a bubble. But I think bad writing really comes from, like, I can see that from, like, if I'm reading something from the New Yorker, like, the bubble is apparent, but they're writing something political versus something that's a story. I guess you could see it in some things. I could probably see the point in, like, something like Forspoken, which reads like a white person's idea of what a like someone from Brooklyn acts like. You need to go to Brooklyn if you're going to write a story about someone from Brooklyn. You need to know regular people if you're going to write stories about regular people. But I don't know if knowing people in Brooklyn would help you write stories in the medieval period. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how that experience would help you. Reading books would probably help you more. But yeah, for something like Forspoken, where it's just like, it's badly written because it's written by a white person trying to coon it up, you know? They're a white person writing their idea of a black Brooklyner cooning it up. That's bad writing, and that could be solved probably by more experience, by, you know, knowing more real people. So there's probably something really there as well. But in my experience, I should say in my opinion, not my experience, in my opinion, most of the bad writing I see, it's just a technical thing, right? They just don't know what good prose is. They don't really know, like, they're just not aware of it. I don't know, they need to do more reading and more writing. ERB started writing because he had a boring pencil sharpener sales job. Yeah. 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 I wouldn't say Edgar Rice Burroughs is very imaginative. Robert E. Howard didn't live a particularly exciting or special life. You know, we think of Tolkien as having he has this great life experience. Yeah. If you ask him, hey, do you think it was good? Do you think World War I was good for you? He would probably say no. That's not an experience he would choose to have. It was a terrible experience. Did it color his work? Yes. But he spent the rest of his life after that, like teaching, being a college professor, which is very boring, right? So his life after the World War I was pretty boring by comparison to his life, you know, this short amount of time of intense trauma. Right? Having like intense trauma doesn't make you necessarily a better writer. And I'm reminded of a Miles Davis quote, and I'll see if I can look it up because it's really good. Someone asked him about like the black experience or something, and he said, "My daddy's rich. My mom is good looking. I could still play the blues. I have never suffered, and I never intend to suffer." Right? This idea that like you have to suffer to play the blues, that suffering makes you a better artist. He thought that was bullshit. He's like, he came from a middle class household. He didn't have financial struggles. He didn't come from the gutter. He came from a good place. Yeah, he did have some struggles, but like that doesn't make me a better musician. Like, this is nonsense. I'll have to find it because it was such a good quote, you know? And I was actually watching a Rick Beato video, and they were talking about how like this is music, not writing, but it might apply to writing as well. You know, my gosh, I look at this thumbnail. I got to show you guys this thumbnail. Look at this thumbnail. All these thumbnails, dude. Look at this thumbnail. I'm going to show you all these thumbnails. These are just like, what is YouTube showing me here? Violence is the answer. Oh, this is Ed's channel. This is a good channel. This is a funny thumbnail. But look at this guy. What is this? This is such a, like, where does this guy live? Where is he? What's going on here? Anyway. Let's see if we can find it. Oh, here it is. Yeah, let's check this out. Not the ad. Not the ad. No, let me pause my music.
That's why I've been using Grammarly to boost my confidence.
Are black musicians genetically better than white musicians? Get me in trouble.
Not better, but they play different. White musicians seem to lag behind the beat. You know, I don't know why.
Does black musicians hurt more?
What do you mean hurt more?
I mean, is it?
It's not that cliche.
I mean, it's not that easy to say that because you came out of slavery, you play on the beat.
No, it had nothing to do with it.
All right.
I told a student teacher of mine like that in Juilliard. She started talking about, well, you know, the black people were despondent at night, and they say that's where the blues came from. So I raised my hand. I said, listen, my father's rich, my mom is good looking, right? And I can play the blues. I never suffered and don't intend to suffer.
So yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking of, right? Is like, you know, this is Miles Davis's thing. Is like, no. You don't need. Like, why is this a suffering thing? Why? Who wants to suffer? No one wants to suffer. Like, get out of here. Yeah, that's the other thing. I've made an old video on this that still gets a lot of views. That's like, oh yeah, I need to get this information here. Yeah, we need to, sorry, we got to put some information in here. Yeah. Why do musicians use drugs so much? It doesn't make you better. Musicians use drugs because that's a way to cope with the difficulties of the lifestyle. The lifestyle is pretty hard, right? You have to be really extroverted and really introverted, and you're up at all weird hours of the night. And there's a culture around drugs. You're at bars where people are drinking all the time. And so that's why musicians end up using a lot of drugs. It's not because they need the drugs to be better musicians. Any musician who's like gotten sober will tell you like the drugs held me back, right? I used them for reasons that were not good and they held me back. Yeah. Okay, let's see here. Oh, yes, we can get that music going in here again. Zool music. Turn the volume down a little bit, though. We don't want to blast y'all's ears. That stuff. Let's see here. I didn't like Nirvana either. Nirvana's not my favorite band. A lot of people love them. It's fine. I don't find their music really compelling. It's just not for me. If we're talking early 90s music, the stuff that I really like is the metal that came out of the early 90s. Just amazing metal that came out of the early and mid 90s that I think smashes anything Nirvana did. Like Pantera, that's early 90s. Dream Theater, that's early 90s. You have Blind Guardian, you have Gamma Ray, right? You have all of these great metal bands that are around in the early 90s. Typo Negative. I felt like all those bands, Soundgarden is really a metal band. I felt like all those bands were just way more interesting than Nirvana. Nirvana's really a punk band and they had the punk aesthetic going. but it really influenced people in a way that I didn't like. Every time I'd meet a musician, they took the wrong things out of that do-it-yourself aesthetic to me. Thank you for the super chat. Hi, David. Made this show on YouTube called Millennium Odyssey, the web series. It's a Christian tactical thriller. You might enjoy it. All right, I'll check it out. Millennium Odyssey. I remember there was a Millennium show on Fox around the millennium. Like a horror mystery show. Yeah, Peter Steele. Yeah, there's just like some great stuff in the earlier mid-90s that didn't really get a fair shake because of Nirvana becoming like the dominant corporate aesthetic, right? Alternative becoming the preferred corporate mode of music. That's how it ended up being. Is there any non-metal music from the 90s that you like? Not a whole lot. Not unless you're getting to like some of the electronic stuff like Aphex Twin, right? That's cool stuff. But yeah. The 90s, like rock was still like the dominant thing in the 90s, and pop music, like what we think of as pop music now, there was still a lot of that. I didn't find it particularly interesting. I mean, Seal's first record, produced by Trevor Rabin, was pretty good, for that style. So I like that. Yeah, but see, that suffering good idea tying into victim moves you up the social hierarchy nowadays. I agree. That is a thing that people, attempt to do. But this was like, that interview was from like the 80s, So there was this narrative that like black music was better because black people came out of slavery. This belief that being a slave is what made the blues. And when you dig down into it, music, as far as musicology goes, let me try to explain this. So musicology is a field dominated by white people, and especially ethnomusicology is white people who look at other ethnic music and catalog it and talk about it and analyze it. So their obsession with American black music centers around anthropological ideas rather than artistic ideas. And at the heart of it is a lack of belief that black Americans can create new and interesting art all on their own, right? You'll hear this repeated even among like people who should know better. They'll call the backbeat, the rock backbeat associated with American music, they'll call it a West African beat. You will not find that beat in West Africa, okay? They have to believe that no black American could actually create something new. It's like a core belief that they're not even fully aware of. They go and look for the blues scale in Africa, just not believing that somebody in America could make that. And it's also to try to like eliminate any kind of white influence, right? Like that white people had nothing to do with rock music and white people had nothing to do with jazz, right? Just because there was a lot of good black artists, that white people are somehow irrelevant from it as well. So there's like a weird racism where they're like obsessed with a belief that this somehow came from some other culture and can't be American. All right. Because ethnomusicologists, they forget the thing that authenticity is made, not found. They can't think of their own culture as being a culture. You hear this sometimes from people. They're like, there's no such thing as American culture. It's like, what are you talking about? It's the most dominant cultural force in the freaking planet, right? What do you mean there's no American culture? And you hear this, so it informs their belief that like black culture is African culture, which is not true, right? Black American culture is black American culture. You can have a subculture and have it be American and have it be unique to America and have it be part of an ethnicity or a race in America without it having to originate from some other continent where other people were from. It'd be like thinking that American culture is somehow European, that it's entirely European. and has nothing unique, nothing new to it at all. It's just European. It's really funny. Yeah, I like Prince a lot too. I like Prince. Oh, yeah, what do you like of pop music of any era? I like Prince's music a lot, actually. I think Prince is great. I like Michael Jackson's music a lot. But the thing is, like, Michael Jackson's a great example. You can go listen to Thriller. Oh, this is a great pop album. It's full of rock music. It's full of just straight ahead rock music. There's a big variety of things. What made it pop is that it's very popular, but Michael Jackson was working within stylistic conventions that had already existed and had their own kind of streams, including rock, disco. Of course, his first album was very disco, and doing his own kind of thing with them. You know, creating what we would think of today as pop. But you know, what is pop? It's just kind of like another form of rock and roll when you like get down to it. Yeah, dubstep came from a remote Amazonian tribe. You hear this too, like rap is from Jamaica. And it's like, is it? Hip hop is. Everything has to be taken away from Black Americans. All their cultural identity has to. It's not a real thing, right? But in the academic circles, they have to. No one's ever had their feet held to the fire to confront their belief that they don't think African Americans are capable of doing original art. Or having an original culture. They get obsessed with the out of Africa. They're like, somehow they came from West Africa and brought all their culture with them, and that's what we're getting is some permutation of things we can't from Africa, right? Like they couldn't have thought up anything on their own, right? They're using European instruments for the most part, you know. That doesn't mean that much, you know. They're trying to imagine like a cultural line without someone ever doing something original, or a group, you know, a coherent group in an area developing their own techniques and their own kind of being inward facing. That'd be the appropriate way to look at it, is really, you know, the origins of blues in, you know, Black communities in a certain amount of time, and how that was kind of inward facing before it became outward facing and got transformed into popular music by being played by everybody, you know? It's just an interesting thing to notice. You still hear people say like, this is an African beat. Like, is it? You know, the West African music that I've heard, it doesn't sound like rock. I think like doing something on beats 2 and 4 is somehow automatically African. It's really funny. Well, this has a backbeat. Okay, emphasizing 2 and 4, that's in Spanish music. Right? They're not Africans. All right, here we go. I'm with spelling Ave already. I don't think I'm consistent with it. Yeah. So let's all right, let's do this. You can do replace with all right. Okay. That easy to fix your mistake. All right, I'm starting to run out of time. We got to get this wrapped up. Oh, we're getting close to 100,000 words here. Very nice. Notice my camera's like changing colors. You guys can't see the words I'm writing. That's stupid. That's silly of me. There we go. Gotta figure out why this is why is this changing colors? Oh, automatic white balance is why. There you go. Alright, that's better. It doesn't know what to deal with, like, stuff sometimes. There you go. Now I'm in color. Now I look fine. Now I think I actually want this scene to go a little bit differently. Sometimes you're sitting there and you're like, you know, I want this confrontation to happen in a different place to kind of up the tension. So, do you spell waste? I have spell check off, so there's no E in waste, right? Okay. Alright, we're almost out of time. We've got about 10 more minutes here. Don't want to hang it up, and we'll be back on Friday. Friday, we will do this again. Get a little bit closer to 100,000. We're setting up the last couple of chapters in a big battle. It's going to be very fun. It's been a very fun book to write so far. All right. Almost out of time. How much? 128. I'm going to see if we can do 2 more minutes here. Why is this a straight quote? I don't know. There we go. What do you think the reasons were that Michael Jackson became so popular? Probably a lot of random things. It's hard to say. I'm going to try to finish this passage, though. Good music, great musicians playing on the records, good promotion, good live show. All at a time when all that stuff mattered, and really good music videos back when that was new, a new and interesting format. Yeah, the media 180'd on him. He's a weird guy, though, you know. It was almost like destiny for that to happen. Let's see if I can hit 100. Let's see if I can hit 100 real quick. All right, we hit 100,000. All right. Okay, that's about it for today. I'm going to get on with stuff. Sorry for the late start. I'll be back on Friday to finish this chapter up, and we'll get it out to all Patreon patrons and subscribers. Let me link the Patreon. You have 2 more days left to buy the Christmas special. So let me link that again. Christmas special, 2 more days left to buy if you want to buy that. If you want the, make sure you subscribe to the Substack. I'll link an article. Make sure you're on the mailing list, dvspress.com/list. Make sure you, what else? What else am I thinking of? There's something I'm forgetting. Oh yes, the music channel. Make sure you subscribe to the music channel. That's what I've had on the whole time. So, take it easy, folks. I'll see you all next time. And have a great, great day.